The thing is, I knew about the English Constitution on my own by just reading. It was a little bit after high school. I had just got out. I was a big Second Amendment guy, and there was an NRA magazine, and I read about the English Bill of Rights. And I'm looking at it, I'm comparing. I'll say, okay, let's see. Wait a minute here. This is an exact copy of the English Bill of Rights, my U.S. Constitution. I mean, almost verbatim. They replaced king when president with king or whatever, and it just blew my mind. Because they didn't teach that in school. They just said, hey, here's the U.S. Constitution. Here's our founding fathers. I did kind of research it. I found out like 95% were all English. You had a few Scots and Welshmen and German and Dutch in there that signed the Constitution, but like 95% were all English. So to me, when I finally found out about the English Constitution, it made sense. I was like, well, they're all Englishmen. Obviously, they want to carry the rights over from England and just modify it with a president instead of a king. So when I ran to your channel and I saw Graham Moore and you guys are talking about the Constitution, I was really blown away. And I was like, that's great, because a lot of people in the UK don't realize that the right to arms, free speech is already in the English Constitution. Yeah. Unfortunately, it only applies to England. I don't know English law, but yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to know the most embarrassing thing, mate? Is you probably know more about the English Constitution than most English people. That's the embarrassing thing, because it's not taught in our schools at all. Like in America, I've been to America, I've been to Florida and places like that.
That's where I'm originally from, is Florida. I'm in Alaska now for my work, but that's awesome, where I'm originally from.
Yeah, I went to Kissimmee in Florida. I was around that area for a little bit. They don't teach it in our schools. They don't teach the Constitution. They're not taught the rights, and they exist. And what a lot of people don't realize, is the Acts of Parliament a lot of the Acts of Parliament are actually illegal because of the Constitution. They shouldn't even be there, because the Constitution states, no, you can't do that. You can't make laws like that. And it's like laws on free speech. We have free speech laws in this country, probably stronger than the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, but it's not used because it's the giant elephant in the room that the MPs don't want to recognize, because they don't want to tell the people, you've got a hell of a lot of power over us, and we don't want you to know that. Yeah, that's basically what it is. I hope Graham Moore was in it, because he was actually in the chat. It'd be great to get Graham in if he's still in the chat.
Oh, that's excellent.
Is Graham still in the chat, or is he going live? I think he goes live at 8 o'clock himself on his own channel. I don't know if he's still in the chat. If you're still in there, Graham, it'd be great to have you in, mate, if you wanted to come in, but if you're not, fair enough. Yeah, I love what you're saying on my comments and stuff like that, mate. Yeah. We have to keep pushing this.
Yeah. And I watch your show, Vin, and I showed some of my friends because in the U.S. news, they don't really talk about what's going on in the UK. Occasionally catch a little piece, but if you open up just, let's say, Fox, CNN, or whatever, obviously I'm more of a constitutionalist, I guess, conservative. I consider myself mostly a constitutionalist because that solves most of the problems. And it wasn't until I started going to YouTube and I found yours, and I kind of saw a little bit of Paul and Jeff Taylor and other guys, but yours was very, yours kind of caught me more because it was kind of straight to the mission. I mean, you're talking about the Constitution, solving the problem with Restore, all the diversions that the government puts in there that could be, actors that are not really there for you. And we have them here in the U.S. We call them rhinos, which is Republican in name only. So, yeah, your vote, that's why we try to say MAGA, because he might be Republican, this guy, but he's not MAGA. He just likes the old status quo of the elites, and you're the peasant. And my theory basically is just like medieval times. You have the nobles, you have the peasants. They just change names. I
totally agree with you. That's exactly what's happened in this country. They were called turfs here. They were like managing the farms. They were allowed. They weren't allowed land ownership, but they could work the land and pay the baron, the lord, tax on what they did. They'd give them a portion of the crop that they produced as payment for being able to live on the land. And that's just what's happened with Parliament. We've swapped a king for a bunch of tyrant MPs in Parliament, because the best possible outcome we could have is we have 650 MPs. Is to have 650 independent MPs, not part of parties, just independent, that look individually after each constituents, instead of having these. Because what's happened is these parties, they've taken over this vast swath of our representatives, and they're forced to vote a certain way, because we have the three-party whip system, that if they don't vote a certain way, they get suspended and they lose privileges and power and that sort of thing. And it's corrupted our parliament. It's corrupted it completely to making people vote a certain way when they really don't want to. It's constrained it. And we want to return.
We have very similar laws like with Congress that you guys have. So you can't be a foreigner and be a president. But as far as a congressman, whether the Senate or the House of Representatives, you could be a naturalized citizen and all of a sudden become a representative. So you can have foreigners come in there, like the Somalis, and that Ilhan Omar or whatever her name is, and she's not born here, but that is probably part of the problem. Unfortunately, the founding fathers at that time, I don't think, because you had Welshmen, Scots, and all these people at the time with Germans and Dutch. They probably didn't want to limit. They didn't really imagine what would happen now. But and you have the same. We have the same problem that you guys have.
We have the Acts of Settlement that stops foreign influence within our parliament, and because of I think it's the 1948 British Nationality Act that overrode that, because that's part of the Constitution as well. That's part of the Constitution. It overrode it. So what it did, it took the identities of the Scottish, the Northern Irish, the Welsh, the English. It took those national identities and made them all into one, which is the British nationality. So what we want to do is we want to abolish that. We want to get rid of the British nationality, and we want to resort back to our own nationalities. We want to be able to be called English, Scottish, and Welsh on forms and tax forms and stuff like that. It erased our identities. So what that allowed to happen was anybody that held a British passport was a British citizen, so therefore they could go into Parliament. Then they were allowed to take office in Parliament. So